Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. And we're going to do things a little bit different around here this week, and I'm really excited. We have a special guest coming on, but first, I just want to extend a huge thank you to Steve Hendren for all that he's contributed to the podcast in the last few years. And now we're changing directions, and I am so excited to be able to introduce our first guest of the reboot here. And this is a really good friend of mine. We go back several years. We actually think we may have met when we were children, but neither one of us remember it. He's quite the innovator in the racing space. He's a teacher and manufacturer, and I'm just really excited to welcome Dave Hammond to the podcast. So, Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Wonderful, Kate. How's things in North Carolina?
Hey, warm and rainy.
Well, it's hotter than hell here, but it's Iowa. You got to love it. Someday you may just want to move back up here. It's so beautiful.
Oh, maybe. I'm more of like a spring and fall Iowa person as far as that goes. Really, really am. For anybody who doesn't know, I actually grew up in Waterloo, Iowa, where they make John Deere tractors. And my dad was a racer for several years there in Iowa. So that's why we think we probably were kids at the racetrack at the same time when we were kids. I'm guessing.
Well, your dad was an easy 20 years, if not more, ahead of everybody else back then. And then I still remember, going over and seeing your dad race like at Dubuque Speedway, Cedar Rapids Speedway. I mean, sad, but he had probably one of the most spectacular wrecks. I don't like to talk about wrecks, but when he landed upside down on the railroad tracks off 2 at Cedar Rapids, I was there that night.
So, you were there that night.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. My dad's told me that story. I don't know if we told it on the podcast. I don't, because I have had my dad on here as a guest before. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's Dick Schiltz. And yeah, it's a crazy story about going over the fence and landing upside down on the railroad tracks. And then, I mean, just right after they cleared the car, like the train comes through there. I mean, It was insane. And if he had landed anywhere else, there were apparently all of these bollards or pylons or something all the way around it that would have just speared him. Just a really, really crazy, lucky break on that. I mean, if you can be lucky.
He was lucky there. And I was out at Cedar Rapids probably 5-6 years ago and walked around, and I actually saw that spot, and I made a video, and I even said, this is where Dick went out right here. So,
wow.
But no, I just remember he always had the cleanest cars, nicest haulers, always ran good, and always ahead of his time. So,
yeah, I definitely would agree. And I think he still is, I mean, he still has these innovations and he thinks of and how he can pretty much MacGyver anything. It's really cool.
Well, he needs to get back in the car is what he needs to do.
Oh my goodness. I don't know about all that. He's got some shiny fancy cars now.
Well, they got nostalgia classes. We can put a roll cage in one of them and run it in that then.
But it wouldn't be original. My dad has matching numbers on everything. So yeah, it's a thing. Talk about being meticulous. No, he's got some beautiful cars. I see we've got a couple of folks here, and this is Scott, and he is always the first one to comment. He says, "Hi, Kate and Dave. Me, I found a way to make a race car faster. Her. Oh, someone else is going to drive it." That's a good one, Scott. I like that.
Well, Scott, there is a lot of truth to that. And before we started the show, I was talking with Kate about I got injured last year pretty bad, and right now that's the only thing holding back my car is me, and going to actually put one of our fellow instructors in the car here pretty soon, Dallin Murdy. We've already done some test sessions, and looking forward to that. And I'm just going to keep trying to get myself back after the accident, try to get back better. So, but there's a lot of truth to that.
Now, Dallin is well known for driving the hobby stocks as well as the modifieds, correct?
The IMCA Stock Cars.
Yes, IMCA Stock Cars and modifieds as well. Am I right on that? So he's never really been behind the wheel of a late model, or he hasn't raced competitively in a late model.
One race.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, heck of a driver and really smart kid because I guess he probably just graduated from high school.
Yes. One reason why I picked him is because when we did our chassis school up here, I really like how he presented himself.
Mhm.
And I started, well, I remember when he first started racing, him and his dad come over this area and race quite a bit. And you just don't see him do stupid stuff. I mean, it's, I'll bust on him and say, damn it, kid, don't take a cruise during race season. Get your ass back up here,
Oh,
dumbass,
that's funny.
and eat some cheeseburgers. You're 100 pounds too light.
Hey, and the good part, you can put weight anywhere you want on the car then when you've got a jockey in the driver's seat.
Well, yeah, he's 100 pounds lighter than me. So,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was such a great experience. Of course, I've been to several Racelogic chassis schools now. I don't even know how many. It's quite a few though. I mean, because I go and film them, and of course, you're
yes,
one of the instructors. And I was very impressed. I mean, when you see enough of these, you're just like, wow, okay. The way the person can convey information and be able to answer questions and get right to
correct.
the point, and really, just really impressed with the Murdy family. And that was one heck of a class this year. And by the way, anybody who's interested, those classes are available on racelogic.vip. Brian's a good friend of both of ours, and in fact, Dave's the one that got me involved with Racelogic. So pretty cool. We're all connected.
I don't remember where it was. Was it Tennessee that you did the first one where I got you to come in to do safety?
Yes, yes, it was. Yeah. Yeah, because I went up to Nashville and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I can explore Nashville. And I'd just gotten a camera and I was gonna like maybe do some video. And it's like 6 hours away, easy enough to drive to. And then halfway there, it started to snow. And then it snowed some more, and then it sleeted. And by the time I got to the hotel, like there was no driving my little Toyota around. So Ben Baker
Well,
took me to dinner because he's got a 4-wheel drive. So it was fun.
it was Ben Baker knew the route I was coming, and he called and he says, "You got to take this exit. Where are you at?" And I was like, "That's the next exit." He goes, "You got to take it or you're screwed." And there was a big wreck, and there was a student that was just ahead of me. I didn't know at the time, but I ended up beating him to the motel by like 4 hours just because Ben luckily called me at the right time.
Wow. Wow.
So, but
Wow.
hey, I see old Richard Valentine stepped on here, old pig. Uh,
Well,
one hell of a good guy. He come to your car show this year and stopped
nice.
in.
Cool.
So Richard's a longtime friend of mine from when I was down in North Carolina. So he is one hell of a good guy there. And I see Tori stepped on here and said hello to the wonderful assistant.
Yes,
Now, if we
amazing
get the other
assistant story.
wonderful assistant, Danielle,
Yep, because
and
you know everybody. Yeah,
Gels,
I think she's on.
I'm gonna lure you away and get you up here to Iowa. I'm gonna put an indoor beach up here, so it's always sunny and 70. We'll put some sand over here, palm trees, and a pool. So,
That's great. And then, Tommy says, "Hey." And it looks like we got a question this evening. And hey, anybody who has any tech questions, we'll go into a little bit more of some tech stuff with Dave. But any tech questions you might have, whether it's setup or cooling, and really doesn't matter what kind of car you have. Dave has worked with
okay.
plenty of them. This will be a good show to talk about those things. But Brian's got a good one. He says,
Yep.
when using the setup plates, how do you compensate for the tire sizes when setting angles?
Well, I'm going to have everything square. A lot of times, like with the stagger we run, it's not going to make that much of a difference if you're under 6 inches of stagger. Now, um, that's something that I've always just done everything square as can be. So if you really the tire size is rollout, that's the circumference. It doesn't really change the center line from the axle tube down to the ground. So that's just one thing that I've always worked with, and it's been really good for me. So
Yeah, you're really big on having everything square.
everything square, because even like in my new car that I just built, I've got everything square, so the front wheels are parallel to each other, the rear wheels are straight, the wheelbase left to right is the same. And why I do that is called simplicity. And my car, and I wish I don't know if people can see this or not. I don't know if you can see that, Kate.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to maximize you here.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard. It's harder than hell. That right there is in the first 3 laps of running that car. I know it's within the first 3 laps. It's at Davenport Speedway. The photographer's on the outside for hot laps, and hot laps is 3 laps. And that car gets over on the right front. I mean, it's pinned on the right rear. And by doing everything square, now I have a really good idea if I want to make an adjustment, what it's going to do with the car. And it's very important to know that. Plus, like if you got the right front forward, it makes it harder to get down on the nose. So it's just, I like simplicity. Plus, it really helps with all the steering geometries and your tire rods. Everything runs square. So when you turn the wheel left to right, and the way I designed the spindles, I've got this car to have right at an 1/8 inch of Ackerman change from total lock left to total lock right. So that's something that a lot of people, they're not that close on, and it really makes, you can feel everything in this race car when you drive it.
Now, I'd be curious. Yeah, I don't know that I've heard the story about how you came up with the idea for the chassis setup plates.
Just knew there needed to be something a hell of a lot simpler. I had a friend of mine, Ray Cox Jr. He's a past IMCA national champion. And I told him, I said, you got to take that 4-bar off the car. It isn't worth the hoot. You got to put a 3-link on it. I says, come get all the stuff you need. I have got all the equipment for holding the chassis, holding the rear end in place. Here's everything you need. Go home, put it on. Well, he didn't get the tooling that I designed to hold the chassis or the tooling to hold the rear end. And he just put it on jack stands and did it. And long story short, he missed. And it was probably the worst I've ever seen him race. And he's a damn good racer. And honestly, I don't know how else to say it, but it pissed me off. And I was like, we got to design something. And that's how it come about. And all my tools, everything that I do, I design as a one-man band. Another feature that I have with my business is of manufacturers of race car parts or tools. I race myself, so I know what I need. I don't have Joe Blow over here telling me, well, can you do this or do that for me? I design my own stuff. So, and I know it works, and then I don't get false feedback from racers that are just full of BS. Mm-hmm. So, but just I design like right now I've got a deal and I'm trying to get it finalized. I've got one small problem with it, but hell, I can sit there and bleed my brakes with remote control. So I'm on a scooter where I can put my car on my DIRTCAR pit lift that you actually sell and I sell. I can raise it up in the air, and then I've got a deal that strokes the brake pedal with remote control and bleed the brakes. So the only problem I got with it is you got to be perfectly brake fluid clean, because if it hits the remote, it chews the remotes up. So I got to figure out how to get that fixed. So we got something that's a little more user friendly if it gets brake fluid on it, because I can't sell this expensive piece and have brake fluid destroy it and then have a mad customer.
For sure. And now, do you bench bleed your brakes before you try to put them on the card?
What I do is we'll bleed the masters themselves, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You got to do that because inside the bores of the masters, there is some pockets that can get trapped air in there. So, but I don't like doing gravity feed or you crack the bleeder and you let it run, because your master cylinder, and this is what's really dumb, air goes to the highest side. So we got hanging brake pedals, so they're higher than the calipers. Stupid. So actually, I'm getting ready to build a couple more cars, and I'm going to put floor mount brakes in it, so my calipers are higher than my masters. Go back pavement stuff. Plus, then you get a lot more room in there to mount your MSD box. Or if you can, luckily enough, have a sanctioned body that lets you run dual MSDs, now you really got enough room. So, but if you just crack the bleeders at the caliper and let the fluid flow through, it's still got an air pocket way up yonder. So that's why I just bleed the masters on a bench. And then what I do is I start where my lines come out of the cockpit. There's always bulkhead fittings. And then I crack them there and fart the air out there, and then just keep working down the line. And by the time you get to the caliper, just done.
Nice.
So
I think those are some great tips. Got a couple more folks here. So Darren says, "Howdy from Alaska, gang! Awesome. Yeah, we get people from all over the place for the
I just sent
show.
some stuff up to Alaska. I don't know if it was him or not. I'm sorry. I don't remember that, but we just shipped some stuff up that way.
Cool.
So
Well, and
I see
Darren
Brian's
says,
here.
yeah, well, and I see Darren says, I'm going to race the Duel in the Desert in Las Vegas in November. Is the setup for IMCA Stock Cars different on a big track like that, different from the bull rings I'm used to?
Well, yes, it is. In the gearing, obviously, is going to be a lot different. So another thing that's going to be different is you probably want to get with your shock and spring guy and make sure that your shock package has got the right timing on it, because you'll have a lot higher speed down the straightaway on corner entry. And I'm fortunate enough that I quit doing shocks a long time ago when I realized that it's either you're going to do all shocks or you're going to do setup tools and chassis parts. So I sold the shock deal, and we got guys like Wade Cross. He's really one of my go-to guys. And then Robbie Bilbrey from down there in Alabama is another one of my go-to guys. And there are some really good shock people in the industry that are just focused on doing shocks and shocks only. That's what I recommend. And
that's a great choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, there's some really good ones out there. And there's some out there that'll sell you snake oil too. So watch out for them. But there are some really good ones there, and I'm very proud to work with Wade and Robbie on a regular basis with the chassis schools. And then both of them have done work for me over the years since I quit doing my own shocks. But as far as like on that half mile out there at Vegas, you might want to tighten up the toe on the car to keep scuff out of the front end. Make sure that you really take the time and make sure that the rear end housing isn't bent. There's a lot of things like that your IMCA stock cars so far down on power that if you've got a rear end that's bent, or the toes excessive out, or it scuffs speed off. And that's one thing with my setup plates that we can do, is get everything nice and square. We can set our toe tolerances much closer because we're not relying on a tape measure and a paint scribe mark and a bent rim, or these junk sidewall tires that are all over the place. So hell, you don't know what you got. And also with my setup plates, now we can work with toe per wheel, so we don't end up having the left front towed in and the right front towed way out, but overall it looks good. Well, that ain't how it works. So, and the setup plates, now if you got a Lucas Oil World Outlaw late model with 950 horse, you're going to drive through them problems. But where you're crate racing, two barrel racing, it's really, really huge to take as much drag out of the car as possible, because drag takes power. And I even work with and I quit working on customers' race cars, but on my own cars, I will take and lock the steering wheel in position. When I got there, it's a steering buddy from Grant Pearl. That's just a badass piece. And you can work with the steering buddy and my plates and measure Ackerman and really see some things. And Grant's an innovator too. I really like that cat. But, you know, you just got to make sure that everything is right. So,
Great.
But
yeah, we got a couple more folks here. So Brian from the Racelogic Chassis School, our amazing organizer of Racelogic for more than 25, I think it's 27 years now. You have to pop into the comments and let us know, Brian. But it's you know, he's been doing this for a long time and really puts together amazing teams, I think, for these Racelogic classes.
I see Neil McPhillips on there. Love the shirt, Dave. Hey, I'm telling you, hookers save lives.
So tell
awesome.
them about
Yeah,
today.
I went to the doc's office today, and they just kind of looked at me, and it's like, yeah, you get what you pay for. So, racers, you're working with your race car, and you want to get the best feel out of your race car. Get a set of hooker belts from Neil. It's not a plug. It's fact. You get tied into the race car so much better. Get a fitted seat, and you get strapped into the car, and you can feel so much more when you have a properly fitted seat belts. Plus, they're made in America. You don't have some ching chong shithead that's 6 years old, and excuse the French, making your stuff. You call there, you talk to the owners, or you talk to Bonnie, who's making your stuff. It's an awesome company. Plus, it's Freeport, Illinois, my second home. So
you can just order them on Crate Insider, and they're still going to be all custom made too. So, yeah,
you got them at Crate Insider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was not aware of that. I don't sell safety stuff on my site just because I just don't want to go down that avenue. I probably should, but I haven't. So,
well,
but
safety's always been important. And, you know, one of the breakout things for me was doing a video talking about fire suppression, since nobody had really talked about it. I mean, when I started digging into fire suppression after I saw a race car, you know, a racer died in a race car fire, and I just thought everybody had fire extinguishers in their cars. And I went down that rabbit hole, and then I realized I found myself reading a white paper from DuPont. And I was like, yeah, this isn't something that racers are going to do. I mean, I went so deep in that rabbit hole and end up calling fire bottle. And so, you know, here we are all these years later. So safety has always been something, you know, anything that is, you can't win a race if you're dead. So,
right. You know,
and it sure sucks to be hurt, as you can well attest to with your, I mean, you're kind of dealing with like post-concussion syndrome at this point. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I went to sit on a stool. I tried to find my Snap-on one. I don't know where the hell it was at. So I grabbed one from Harbor Freight, set on, it's unbalanced. I went backwards and speared my skull with an axle tube, and it's been really messed up ever since. And I mean, I lose my balance. You know, it was honestly, when we were down to your trade show, I didn't go out to eat at night at the places because I can't handle sound. Like Texas Roadhouse, I can't handle that. I go to the racetrack, I got earplugs in that are custom fitted. I've got ear muffs on. I know I look like a dork, but I can't handle the sound. So, but
Dave, are you saying I look like a dork with my headphones on?
No, you don't. You look awesome, sweetie.
No, you got to do what you got to do. But it's not your first concussion, and you've had several other ones, you know, from race cars, and so it's really the accumulation of everything that's kind of added up. Is that the right understanding there?
Yeah, my first concussion, I was like 5 years old, and I went to fly a paper airplane, and my feet slipped, and I caught the corner of the sidewalk with my nose and shoved my nose up and over to the right. And docs never fixed it, and I'm very fortunate. I've got one hell of a neurologist here in the Quad Cities that I deal with, and actually found him by pure accident. I went to go for a walk. In my little town, DeWitt's flat as can be, square as can be, and I was like 6 blocks from home, and I didn't know it. I got lost, and ended up there again. I don't remember this until my cousin has called me. I called my cousin in California, and he figured out where the hell I was at and got me home. So now I got to do this stupid stuff. I got a dog tag. That's for Clark and Eddie. Shit, I got to wear one now. So I know who I am sometimes, but you know. Hey, I see Willie's on here.
Yes,
Dude.
Willie from Willie's Carbs and Dyno. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, and huge compliment. You guys are great, so thank you so much. And I always love interviewing Willie. Willie's talk about another innovator in this space. My goodness.
Yeah, I like Will's. He's good shit. And I never met him down south, but our paths, when I was in North Carolina, he was down there, and our paths crossed, but never connected. And then I see here's another guy, Greg Castley. Do you remember him, Kate?
Are you putting me on the spot now? Thanks.
Yeah, he's an old guy. He raced with your dad a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
Greg's still racing today. I think it's car number 73, and I think he's 73 years old, or maybe he's a little older than that. Love you, Greg.
Yeah. Well, and Glenn's got a suggestion. He says blinker fluid works great. Works good on race night. So that's always cool. No, I know one thing that you and I wanted to talk about. We're at end of July. We're getting into August. I mean, this is about the hottest part of the summer and race season it doesn't matter where you're at. And I know my phone rings with some, asking questions about cooling and fans and all kinds of stuff. So I'd love to just kick it off and just, kind of just tell us, when you're getting those calls this time of year, what are some of the main things that you suggest to people about how to keep their cars cooler this time of year?
Well, number one is you need to have a clean radiator. And if you're a guy that takes a garden hose and blows air through air gun and blow air through the fins of the radiator, just take that radiator and throw it in the trash. You done ruined it. It's going to sound bad, but I think you need 3 radiators. You need one in the car, one in the trailer for a spare, and the third one is in a dunk tank. And I've designed these aluminum tanks to soak the radiators, but they're too damned expensive, so I don't want to sell them. Plus, they're oversized. But you should take a radiator, go steal your kid's swimming pool, and put the radiator in it, fill the inside of the radiator up with water, and then let it flow out. And make sure that your inlets are sticking up, radiator cap on. If you got a water pressure port on it, cap that off. And then fill that water all the way up to where the tanks are underwater. And like I say, don't get water inside the radiator, but let it sit for 24 hours. Hold the radiator out. And then you can take the radiator and hold it about 6 inches off of the ground and squarely drop it down and let it bounce. And then do that and let it soak in the water. You're going to do this 2-3 times. But why I want 3 radiators is you cannot take a radiator, wash it out, stuff it in the car, because it won't be dry. And as soon as you get on a dusty racetrack, now the radiator is full of mud because dust hit water and turns to mud. And by having 3, that means your spare is ready to go. So like this time of the year, I wouldn't be a bit afraid. Run a weekend. Like up here, we run 3-4 nights a week. Run that weekend, take the radiator out, wash it, put your spare that's in the trailer in the car, take the one that's been washed and it's good and aired out. Now it can sit in the trailer for a week and get extra aired out. So you keep it in constant rotation. Couple other things that I found out. We have got some awesome fan blades out there. CJ Jones and Travis Gorsuch's have killed it. They've made awesome fan blades. And one thing, and I'm not knocking them, but what I have seen is a couple things. They sometimes create too much airflow, and they actually suck the dirt up off the racetrack and start impacting the radiator. So, and if you don't think your radiator can hold any dirt, I was a dumbass a couple weekends ago, and I ran up on the cushion a little bit too far. Like I hooked the cushion to the left rear, thinking I got 900 horse, when in fact I got a damn crate engine. So I packed the radiator full of dirt, and I was like, I wonder how much I added to it. So I got 2 brand new Kaiser radiators, and I weighed the brand new one, and I put the one out of my car drained of water. There's no water in it, but just full of dirt, and it had 4 pounds of dirt in it.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was my fault. So, but you need to keep rotation. Another thing to do with cooling, make sure you got a good shroud, have a good water pump. And I know this time of the year you don't really need this, but in the spring and in the fall, the ARTS thermostat system is the only way to go. It is so nice. You don't have to sit and line up and run your car and burn excess fuel off. And I got hooked up with old Artie, and man, it's been a hell of a ride, and really appreciate the guy has really opened my eyes and taught me a lot about cooling. And I thought I knew quite a bit, but that's where I've been very fortunate. You affiliate yourself with the correct people, and that all helps. And like, there again, Ben Baker at AFCO's really helped a lot. I learned a lot, but make sure you do the radiators exchange. Don't clean them with a garden hose while they're in the car. You're just wasting time. Another thing, spend the money and get the AN fittings and the hose for the upper, and get the good mandrel bent aluminum and the good silicone hose. That way you can never crush it. And the most important gauge in the race car is the water pressure gauge. And I got a whole slew of gauges in my car, and this week I'm going to pluck them all out with the water pressure, because when I packed my radiator, I ran a heat race and it got hot, and I didn't have time to change radiators, and it got hot, and I had a little 3-blade fan on, so I threw the Gorsuch 6-blade on, and that actually helped limp me through the night. But I just looked down, I seen the temperature gauge. It was like 240, but I looked at the water pressure. I could see that it had water pressure, so I'm like, screw it, just keep going. So that's the only gauge that matters.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest tips that I picked up from Ben Baker from AFCO, is the water pressure gauge, because you could have like a rock come through your radiator,
Yes,
and you're dumping water and you have no idea that it's happening. Your water pressure gauge or your water temperature gauge isn't telling you anything because it's not measuring any steam, but you could blow up an engine, so it's kind of a, to make sure. And I know something we've talked about on the show before is that if you're not pushing water, don't worry about it as far as the water temperature goes, as long as you're not pushing water. But as soon as you are, that's a problem. But the water pressure will keep you from blowing up an engine when you destroy a radiator, for sure.
Now, another thing too is really starting to like them in Rosso. What are they, 35-pound radiator caps? I went to them.
Oh, you know what I'm using? The ARTS radiator caps, because Art and yeah,
you're shitting me.
No,
I'll be honest with you. Of all of our conversations, Art didn't tell me about this. So
well, and not only see, this this is all like we all learn from each other situation,
right?
What Art had told me is, because it's not like he's actually stamping these out; he's getting them made. But what he's found is he was at a track, and he's got with this racer, and this racer's having all kinds of problems, and I'm sure Art could go into detail on that story. Anyway, what ended up being the problem was the guy's radiator cap, of all things, was the problem.
Right.
And so when Art gets these batches of radiator caps in, now he actually pressure tests every single one of them to make sure that they are in the range that he says they are. So I think they're like 20 to 31. And
no different than you checking valve springs.
Exactly. So he's set up something that he can pressure test these, because they're not something you can even like really fix. I mean, it's a cap with a spring and another little piece, and they go together, and I don't know. I don't know what can go wrong with them, but he actually pressure tests every single one so that he knows what's going out the door and he just ditches the rest of them.
Right.
Yeah, like us with valve springs. You're exactly right. We rate a
Yep.
lot of valve springs.
Well, I've got some here from you, so
Well,
I
thank you.
got the kick-ass tools from you too. From
Oh,
what is that?
LSM.
LS.
Yeah. Yep. LSM Racing Products, and
Yep.
that's all American made as well. Something that we certainly love around here, as much American made as possible. It's not 100% possible with all race car parts, but
Right.
there are a lot of amazing companies that manufacture right here in the United States. Looks like we got some more comments here,
Okay.
so go through those. And Scott says phenolic resin heat shield for mechanical front mount fuel pumps. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, we're using those phenolic fuel pump plates from Canton, or yeah,
Okay.
it's Canton. Oh, here's an interesting comment.
I
And
say I'd never used one because I'm fortunate enough we can run the pumps and the
alcohol.
bell housing. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mark says never use antifreeze. Antifreeze heats up quicker. Any thoughts on that,
and
Dave?
and if you ever get a coolant leak into the engine, the antifreeze will knock the bearings out.
Oh, I didn't know that. Now, do
Yep.
you use distilled water when you're filling your
Yep.
radiator?
Yeah, it's really hard to get right now. I mean, you go down to the dollar store and you buy 20, 30 gallons of it and you clean them out. And where now I've had I talk about getting a good water pump. Trust me, I've been down this wormhole this year and I shook the water pump gaskets out of my car 4 times because I had a water pump that wasn't of quality. And I'm not going any further with it. But uh, there again was a nice lengthy conversation with Art and lengthy conversation with CJ Jones, and we got the thing fixed. And so
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny. I don't think everybody realizes how much like manufacturers, retailers, how much we talk to each other. It's kind of a lot.
it is, it really is. And I mean, been so fortunate. I'd have to go look at my car, but I think there's 30 manufacturers that I'm working with that's products are on my car.
Nice.
So that's so important to actually have hands on. I mean, it's just, even like the Kaiser wheels or the Bilstein shocks. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the FK products. And, like that's the only rod ends I sell up here are FK. And if people ask me what to use, I just tell them flat out FK with
Same here.
Teflon
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and make sure it's a narrow body and put it in the load machine. I work with Tim Morgan over there at Boyd Built, makes a
Mhm.
hell of a load machine. In fact, we actually do every one of my pull bars in there. We make a dyno sheet. So when you buy a pull bar, it's all printed out. So you know what the travels, the load numbers are at X amount of inches. And so it's really amazing what you can find. And, there again, getting up with Tim Morgan, it's just been nothing but games. You just learn so much. So
Yeah. Another innovator for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then exactly. I mean,
Well, and you mentioned Kaiser wheels. I love my wheels. I love my Kaiser
Wade's up there.
aluminum
He's
wheel.
pretty good. Hey, now if you ask Wade, he should remember when I went and talked to him at PRI. I still had my Cars Racing badge on because they were so worried about you having a badge to get through the doors. And I was like, these dumbasses ain't even looking at them. So I put the Cars one on and walked right through the door.
Actually, I have a fun PRI and Kaiser story. I don't know if I've told you this before. So this is back in like, oh man, it must have been like 2018 maybe. And it was one of these times like it's like I'm gonna be flying back on Saturday, and the show's not even over yet, but I'm gonna fly back on Saturday. So we're gonna have like a late lunch, I'm working really hard and have like a late lunch and then the plan is then to go out to the airport and do all of
Right.
that. So we've already checked out of the hotel. got my luggage like right by my side and eating lunch. And then I get a text message or an email or a phone call or something from Delta telling me that my flight's been postponed until like the next day. And I was like, "What? This sucks." Like you're ready. I wanted to be at PRI for longer, but hey, okay, now there's snow in North Carolina. Got a snowpocalypse, and so can't get home. So I was like, "Okay, well, if that's
No
the
snow in
case."
Iowa that day either, because I remember
No
that.
snow up there. No snow up in Indy, but there was snow back in North Carolina, so
Yeah.
they canceled our flight. So I was like, "Okay."
Wasn't that the year you shipped me up an engine too to put in the car?
Might have been. Yeah, 2017, 18, something like that. So I
Something
was like,
like that.
"Okay, all right, there are a couple more people on this list that I did not get to because I've been just running around PRI." And so I went straight to Kaiser because I was like, "Man, I'm gonna get one more dealership deal here." And I went
Right.
straight to Kaiser's booth and I talked to Wade and was able to work out a deal and that's when I became a Kaiser dealer because I've admired their stuff for a long time. And that's when he was first coming out with a black powder coat on the insides, and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, I'm in love." Like these are amazing. And of course, I've been a dealer ever since, and even through the fire, I was just like, I mean, it's either Kaiser wheels or no wheels as far as I was concerned, and so I just waited it out, and now we sell lots and we have lots of wheels. Well, we do. We have lots of wheels, and then we don't, and we just constantly ordering more. It's a good problem to have. So it's good.
Well, and I got some here. I don't have near as much as you do, but there again, I can say, hey, this is a wheel that I use on my car. I'm around it. And the little things like how they put the charades on the inner and outer of the beadlock so it grips the tire is so much better. And I mean, everything about it's just a wonderful piece. And then, if you're a dumbass and stuff it in the fence, you can unbolt the outer ring and bolt a new one on and not have to buy a whole wheel. So,
Yeah, we stock those now too, the half wheels,
yeah,
all of them. Well, we try anyway. I mean, they just don't
I
last.
got them. I
Yeah.
got the halves here, but we ain't put them on the website yet. So
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to sell when they're not on the website. But we
Right.
got probably close to 100 items that we got to get added on the website. So, and that's something too that we got to get together with and start doing a new updated website. And you and
Yeah.
Jan up here can work together on that because I just told her how to add product to it because I ain't got time to do that. And
No, we can show
she's
her how
so
to
much
do it.
more detail orientated than I am. I'm just like throw it up on there and let it go.
Gotta
We got
refresh
to
a
be
website every once in a while. I mean, we just did ours, and, this time, the last big update was 2018, and then now, of course, it's 23, and, it just had some things that needed to be updated, and so I'm very happy with our refresh, and then I built yours, I mean, gosh, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, so yeah,
You probably can do like probably 6 now.
is it that wow, it's okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you definitely need a redo. We'll get
I
that.
do. Hey, there's a question up
Yeah,
here.
we got it. We got a few here, and Mark, I like to bring up people's comments too.
Okay.
Mark says fan shrouds are a must. Definitely agree
Yes,
with that. And Glenn says running up front works well too. Clean air rules, of course. Yes.
of course.
Yeah.
Unless you jump the damn cushion and pack the radiator full of shit.
There's always that. And then Mark says water nozzle bottle inside the car. Run a hose up to radiator and find a way to spray that water out.
That's
That
so 1980. I mean, I remember when we first started racing modifieds in like 1984 that was a thing. But there again, you spray water on it, it's going to go right back onto the helmet. It's going to cover the tear offs. You're going to get all muddy and look like hell. And you're going to get the radiator to cool down, but it's going to be wet. And then it's just going to pack up with more dirt. So you're actually making it worse. But that was a 1984 thing. And so we used to have those 2.5-gallon stainless steel fire bottles that we rigged in the cars. And so,
let's see. And then Mark says six blade fans are best. Obviously, there's a lot of opinions on all
right.
of these, and I think it really, would you say it's also maybe a regional thing?
Yes.
Type of car it is. Down here in the South, we've got red clay. Most of my customers are running crates. I mean, I run Crate Insider, so
Right.
most of my customers are crates, and we can't run alcohol here. So cooling is a slightly different situation. Um,
Correct. And you know, the 6-blade is, but remember this: there's two sides to every story. The 6-blade takes a lot more horsepower, and also you can say running hot costs horsepower. So I'd rather have the 6-blade, but I would rather work my ass off and figure out how can I get a 3-blade or a 2-blade on it to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, like on mine right now, I've got it running cool enough that I'm actually taking the 2-core radiator out, putting a single core in, and I'm going to knock another, I think it's 8 pounds off the nose of radiator. I haven't figured how much the water is, but I bet you I'm going to be an easy 10 pounds overall. And, that's something to think about there. So, and, here I do sell a lot more Gorsuch's fans than I do CJ's fans, and they're both phenomenal pieces. So you sell more CJ fans.
Well, and that's race fan, and that's such an
Yeah.
interesting collaboration too, because Ken Anderson came up with the race fan independently. CJ at Jones had his 3-blade Hustler fan, which was I believe it was aluminum, and then they got together. So
Right.
actually, the CJ Jones's fan uses the race fan blades, and then then with that collaboration, then up at CJ's shop is who actually manufactures the hubs, the center hubs for
Yep.
both the Jones fans and the race fans. So really just an incredibly cool collaboration between two different companies, that are there's some variation in what they do. All of the Jones fans are a 3-blade, and then the race fan has the different variability, whether it's 2, 3, 4, or 6. So yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. And then we've got all the different blades, whether you want to do 15, 17, or 19 inch for your fan. So pretty cool.
Well, and on the Gorsuch's fan, to say you got a 6-blade and it's too much, take a jigsaw, cut 3 blades off. Now I haven't tried this part yet, and I really want to call up there and talk to Travis or to Marshall, but I don't see why you couldn't take a 6 and cut 4 off and make a 2-blade. But that's something that's for a different day. I need to have that conversation. I don't want to just cut 4 blades off. I know we can cut 3 because we've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and that's what we did for years before we had any of these composite fans, is we
right.
took those 4-blade
The
All-Star
diesel,
fans
yeah,
and cut 2 blades off. Now, some people try to separate them, but then you don't have enough strength in that center section.
right.
So we would just cut 2 blades off and put them on the grinder a little bit where it was where it had been cut, and then paint them different colors. Believe me, it was a thing. This was like a 2014 thing, and can you believe this is going into 10 years of
Well,
doing
and I just sold I had 2 of those diesel fans, and I just finally sold them. I'm not going to run them. The nice thing about Travis's fans or CJ's fans is they're small enough you don't have to notch the damn fan shroud for the fan blade to stick through. So, and I'm just looking through here. I see another one, guys talking about using the GM blade. They're a phenomenal piece, but you cannot use that GM 4-blade with the serpentine belt. It will not hold up. It'll tear the belt all to pieces. So you got to use, and what I found there was I had to run the CV Products pulleys with the shim kits in them so you can adjust the tension of the belt. You could either, if the belt was a little too tight, you put an extra shim in, widen the pulley groove out, drop the belt down so it fit better, or take a shim out, tighten the groove up to raise the belt and make it fit properly that way.
Interesting. And now we got the self-tensioners from both Jones and from KRC, so you don't have to do the tensioners.
Yeah, and the nice thing about what I can run up here or the UMP cars is we can put the pumps in the bell housing so they're safe, and then we just run a serpentine and we don't even have to use that tensioner. But I mean, just only thing is turning is the fan. So
yeah.
And I see Fred here put on that that he runs E85. It cools the engine. I have zero experience with E85, but there's people up here doing it, and they just go to the local gas station and buy it. There's no way I would do that.
No, we run a lot of E85,
Yeah.
here in the Southeast, especially because you can't run alcohol pretty much east of the Mississippi, at least not in any of the crate divisions, so before big block modified guys come on and say, we can run it in New York, I really kind of,
they should be able to
in my
run
area.
alcohol.
Yeah, well, Tech Man made that decision years ago, and they all followed suit, and here we are. So, but E85, it's as far as the cost and the cooling of it is worked out really well for a lot of these guys, which is good.
I see Fred put on there that he's got VP only. Good
Oh,
move,
good.
Fred. That's VP,
Yeah,
Bait, Renegades, Sunoco, any of the brand names. That's good. And
yeah, because in E85 is still going to have 15% of something else,
right?
And if you can have it with that good high quality and everything I hear, especially with the VP, and I don't sell fuel anymore, so I really don't have I don't have a horse in this race.
That is such a pain in the ass to sell fuel. You buy a barrel of fuel, you got to buy 4 drums to get it on a skid. And I just had a guy ask me for fuel for his big cubed aluminum engine, and I felt guilty charging them $50 markup on a barrel. I was going to make $200 on it. Still $3,000 was my cost. I'm like, how stupid can you be? Let's just put it on methanol. So
yeah, and I've got a small shop. I don't have a forklift, and so
your insurance is cheaper by not having the shit,
right?
And everybody wants to come in and buy 5 gallons and waste your time.
Well, and only having if you have any more than 4 barrels, I think then the EPA starts coming in, or OSHA or somebody starts inspecting you, and
like,
nah.
There's this guy up here at one time. He had a storage business, and on his sign there it says no fuel storage. But I know that cat kept 20-30 barrels of fuel in there all the time.
Do I maybe know that guy? Is he maybe on the podcast?
And you be driving through town, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of smoke. You go, oh shit, did it burn down? Now it was the neighbor next door burning pallets. Thank goodness. But I don't miss the fuel sales. I don't miss selling aluminum. I don't miss selling tires. So
many of those things. No.
Yeah, don't even do it. Ain't worth your time. Mickey on here says that he has been using a nylon fan for years.
Okay.
Now, there is a true racer right there. How old are you, Mickey? Damn, I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure you 82. Still winning races out in Utah. Pretty cool guy to have a phone conversation with. So
that's neat. And
it is.
Got a few more comments here, and see here. Trucker Moore says, running a 602 in my modified, it was 100 degrees last race. The motor ran 240. Is that too hot?
Did it push water? If it didn't push water, I don't recommend running that temperature. But if it didn't push it, you should be okay. But man, do whatever it takes to get that down to like 200, 210, 220. I mean, you're basically 20 degrees hotter, but you got the higher the pressure radiator cap, you can raise the boiling point of the water, so you can get away with that better. But by putting a higher pressure radiator cap on, you better not have a ching chong radiator in the car, and you better have good hoses, because you got some of those cheap ass $89 radiators. They're going to blow the cores out, the tanks out, and all you're going to do is get someone hurt with hot water. Make sure you have a good radiator in that car, good hoses, and a higher pressure cap. But figure out why it is, and is it running hot because it's full of dirt? Is it running hot because you got cheap radiator hoses that are kinking? So that's all things to look at.
Great. And Mikey's got a comment. He says, honored to represent both Kate and Dave out here in the Pacific Northwest. Hope to see you guys again soon. Awesome.
Well,
yeah.
Fly over this way.
Yeah. and Henry
was here last winter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was. He was here for Racelogic or in Iowa for Racelogic. Came down for the Cars Racing Show in that first one, that
Mhm.
December of 2020. And yeah, we're kind of announcing, well, you'll see some more announcements, but our next Cars Racing Show will be January 5th and 6th of 2024.
I'll
And
be there.
yeah, awesome. Yes, and we're gonna
Same booth.
start getting there. Yep. Don't worry, I got you taken care of. I know exactly where you're at. So
Good.
yeah, maybe you can do one of our seminars and teach one of these topics. That would be great. I know you teach a lot for Race Logic, but um,
Yes. It's
I
just
know.
hard to go and do the seminars when you're doing the trade show because I'm a one man band. Or now last year I had my cousin come with me, Stevie. Uh,
Hmm.
but if I'm not there, then it just doesn't work. So I got to either stay in the booth or stay in the trade show or in the seminar room. So
Oh, I understand. Yeah, I'm just teasing you because I was,
I
if I can
know.
put some pressure on you, live.
Oh, you ain't gonna put pressure on me, darling.
All right. And Henry says, bought my 3 blade from Kate and went from 195 to 190 and no shroud. Running race gas. That's cool. Well, I'm
I
glad that
would
helped.
I
And
would
he was
still tell you
using,
to put a
he was
shroud.
using the GM 4 blade is what he was using. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
would still say run a shroud for the simple fact that if you got a fan from Kate, I'm sure it's the race
race
fan
gas.
or Jones
Mhm.
fans, and by not having a shroud, you're running the risk of a rock coming up and hitting the blade. So you want to be proactive. And when you make your fan shroud, don't make just a square box and cut a hole in it and rivet a ring around the outside to get your depth right. Make the fan shroud to where it tapers from the radiator to the fan, so there's no sharp edges to create turbulence to just disrupt the airflow. So just take some time and make a nice fan shroud, and that will protect your investment of your good fan blade that you have as well. And there's nothing worse. And I had a racer just do this. Um, Now, I'm not going to say whose fan it was. I don't feel that should be said, but he picked up a rock, busted the fan blade off, and shoved it through his HD Kaiser radiator. So,
Mm.
he lost a few $100 on the fan. He lost, I think, close to 400 on the radiator plus a DNF. And it was a simple rock that caught it.
And that could have
So,
been prevented with a fan shroud.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Paul says, "What do you use for rockers and push rods? Seems like the ratios are all over the place." Um, I don't know if you're doing anything. Are you doing anything with engines, Dave?
Hell no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, any of the crate stuff that I deal with. I mean, I'm not an engine builder by any way, shape, form. I just know
Right.
them. But most of the series, well, all of them, require the use of GM parts. So um, it's
Correct. And,
it's not
and
it's not really a question where there's an option.
right. And I don't know enough about the crate engine stuff to tell you other than here we can't even blueprint our crates up here. It's got to have the IMCA tag on it or it ain't good enough.
Hmm.
And I just
Yeah.
know it was a lot of fun that year that you shipped me an engine, and I did a trade show before we went to PRI, and my booth was next to IMCA's, and I had it was a Crate Racing USA tags on it, so it was
Yep.
awesome. We got some good officials in the IMCA, so I like to bust on them when I can, but they're all real good people. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to hand it to them. I mean, it's something they've been doing for, gosh, 30 something years and 40 year maybe. I mean, it's a long time, and keeping it together and having
right,
regions and when you see series that or regions that end up getting fractured with all of the, I mean, for lack of a better word, just drama. I mean, it
yeah,
ends up being personal drama that fractures like entire segments of the racing industry. And I think it's great. I mean, with modifieds, you kind of have two choices, right? IMCA or USRA. And those are your kind of two choices for a majority of the country. I know we've got a couple things going on out here, but
well,
you know,
and like here we have, if you're going to run in Iowa, you've got IMCA, or if you go 3-4 hours away, then you can get into the USRA. But if you go east into Illinois, you have East Moline Speedway that just reopened under new management. They've really made the place look nice. That's IMCA there. But if you go to Kankakee, Farmer City, Fairbury, Charleston, that's all UMP. So
that's right. UMP is definitely in the Northeast. So sorry.
yeah, UMP.
But
UMP gets within an hour and a half of me.
Well, and IMCA is definitely the biggest, though, as far as the biggest region. I mean, they go all the way out to California, and
New York too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's there. Anyway, just got to hand it to them for having a successful series.
Well, and they got something else they can say that, like them or hate them, they're the only place that can get 800, 900 cars on the first weekend of September.
Super Nationals.
I was fortunate enough to go to Super Nationals too. Now I'm going to go to the Nationals this year with Dallin. I'm going to let him run my car there, but I told Dallin, I'm like, I have no interest in going out there to race that. It's so crowded and chaotic. I just don't care for it. But man, it's really awesome deal. I got the best thing to go to Super Nationals when I go out there to watch it. I got my wife drop me off at the front gate so I don't have far to walk. She goes back into town over to Ames and hangs out at the college up there at Iowa State. That's where she went to veterinary school. And then she sees some of her old classmates and friends that's still in the area. And then I call her up and tell her, be at Casey's at 10:30, and I walk out of the racetrack, walk across the street, jump in the car, and less than 3 hours later, I'm at home.
Yeah, you got a good deal.
You notice that. It's over at 10:30 at night, and there's hundreds of race cars there. Now, during the week, it does run pretty damn late. It's like a weekly show in North Carolina, but that's the only time.
I'm not even going to argue. It's just, it is what it is. Yes.
Absolutely. When I was down there, it was harder physically to race 2 nights a week in North Carolina than it is to run 6 nights a week up here. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I go to 311 Motor Speedway in Madison and sleep in the damn parking lot and come home the next day, or no matter where you're at, you're so tired at the end of the night because they think they got to race to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'd hate to say how many races I've raced at that time in the morning, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, here we got 10:30 curfews, and they get the shows done in very timely, organized fashion.
Well, and what's nice, I mean, I grew up in Iowa and Iowa racetracks, right. And what was great is, when the races were over, then you could go to like the pizza place bars, and you can, the kids are playing arcade games. It was 80s, so I would go play Pac-Man or go play pool or something, and
you're showing your age, Kate.
Years, and I know I just don't say what it is, but I have some slices of pizza and all of that, right. And yeah, I think it really builds the camaraderie. You can kind of hang out in a fun manner, and that just really ends up being missing if you're right. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You just want to get the hell home. I mean, you just want to be done.
Right.
You've been committed. Yeah. All right. So we got a couple more comments here. So Mikey says, we sell tires, fuel, and aluminum sheets. It's a tough business. And he almost filled out a job application when he was at HMS in January.
Well, that got filled. I actually got a gal working for me that used to be at my sandwich shop years ago, and really fortunate to get Jess up here, and she's made a hell of a great transition from when I had my sandwich business and she was working for me and I sold it. I told her, I said, someday you're going to come back working for me. Took 13 years, but I got it accomplished. So, and what's really good is she listens to me. She picks up on things real well. I hardly am on the phone. I do technical. If people call and they try to they got technical questions and it turns out to be an order, I just hand the phone back to her. So here, you take it. but I'll do all the technical stuff and actually teaching her some of the basic technical things like how to identify what setup plates you got, because hobby stocks with stock rear ends are different than if they got a hobby stock with a floater rear end, that type of thing. So,
Yeah. Great.
but
And just a couple more comments here. So Darren is watching, and Donnie and Shane say great show. Thank you so much. And Jim is mentioning Midwest Pizza.
you know, that's the best thing up here is Midwest Pizza and the Midwest Racing. We do have to put up with the snow, Jimbo, but it's well worth it, as you may know.
You know, when
And
I was at your
hey,
shop, yeah,
JP Performance is getting a bill for my trailer where you lost the trailer door. I'm actually getting that fabricated up, so you'll be getting a bill in the mail. So for those that don't know, I was at Kate's show, not this year, but the year before. I kind of had an episode of kidney stones, and I wasn't that tough, and I passed out. And a lot of great people there at the show helped me. They ended up taking my booth down, and I was down there by myself, 900 miles away. My wife flew down, but she can't drive truck and trailer. And old Jimmy, he drove my stuff home and then doesn't pay attention, and the door blows off the trailer. Damn it.
No, that was, you hate to have anything bad happen
Right.
to anybody. But, that's one thing I just love about the racing community when it comes down to it, that the people that pull together and take care of one another. That's pretty cool.
You had Captain Kurt there helping, Tim Morgan. You had Dave Akins from Toy Makers there. Ashley was there helping.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know who all helped. Jimmy Peterson, I couldn't tell you because I was flapped out, and they stuffed me in an ambulance and shipped me off. And even old Earl Ramey was my Uber driver to get my sorry ass back from the hospital. So actually, I ended up there twice that weekend and ended up in the hospital on the way home. So I hit 3 hospitals in less than 4 days, man. That was a tough weekend.
Yeah, the trifecta.
Oh, hell yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Oh, and Darren says, great show tonight. Nice to hear some IMCA talk. Thanks, Darren. Thanks for being on here. Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
are you from, Darren?
Yeah, must obviously a IMCA country for sure. So we'll find out. And yeah, we're right at about an hour. And Dave, I want to just, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. These have been some just really great things to talk about, to bring something new. And compare notes. I love how we're like literally, this is how we would normally talk on the phone. And I love how we're comparing notes on stuff like live in front of everybody.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a real deal. So
always good to learn. And we got to let people know where they can find you.
Well, I'm in the lovely state of Iowa. You can always find me at HammondMotorsports.com, DIRTCARUSA.com. Even if you go to DIRTCAR, it's just going to roll over to Hammond Motorsports website. I merged the two. And what I did is I bought the Bash Brothers out. They had a parts business and a pole bar business. So I bought them out to get the pole bar business, and I got the DIRTCAR USA along with it. Social media. I'm on, obviously, here on Facebook. I've got JDM page, JDM Racing Solutions, DIRTCAR USA, Hammond Motorsports, Dave Hammond. And I'm on TikTok, which, whatever, but TikTok works. So I'm on there under, I think that's Hammond Motorsports. YouTube. Please go to my page, like and subscribe. I have got a tremendous amount of tech videos on there. There's not very much BS on there. But there's a lot of tech videos on there about stuff, and I've been starting to date them. But there's tech videos from when I started my setup plates like 7 years ago, and every time I do something new or find something else about them, I do an update video. So don't just say, oh, there's another setup plate video. Hell, there's going to be something new in it that the previous one didn't have. And so you can call or text me at 563-659-1153. And that's pretty damn awesome. I guess maybe, I do got the Hooker shirt on. I love it. Probably should have had an HMS shirt on it, but screw it. This is who I am. So.
No, that's fantastic. And we'll be sure to put links in the description wherever anyone is watching.
I don't know how this will work. I'll see. That ain't gonna work.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Yep. There we go. There we go. Everybody can see it. Oh, put it back. But we'll be able to put all that information into the description. A lot of our folks will watch this later on YouTube or Facebook. And we'll also have it on our website at CrateInsider.com. Or for our podcast listeners, you can find our podcast, Racing Insiders Podcast, on Spotify, as well as Apple and Google, anywhere where you would listen to podcasts. So this gets, put out tomorrow. We're live now, and then we'll get it out to all of the places. Yes. And speaking of places, Darren is from Southwest Colorado. So really all over.
Do you race against Corey Cox, the 88 car? He's a goofball.
Probably, but yeah, well, so we'll wrap things up, and thank you again, Dave.
Thank you.
Definitely, I'm gonna have to. We didn't even talk about like all of so many other things, so I'm gonna have to have you back on the show, and we'll just stack up some more questions for you for next time.
You let me know. I'll be ready, because it's very important to get out there so that people get to know who you are, understand that understand what you do and why, and so, and that's one thing I got to really give credit to you, is you're the one that drugged me out of my shell to get to do these videos. So you kind of created a monster. And then we got, I know I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, and that's because I'm horrible at that, but Lenny
Baticki
from PRN Radio, that goofball come up and saw me a month or two ago. He was up here in Iowa.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Lenny's an awesome guy.
Yeah, Lenny's something else. He was down at some racetrack this weekend and saw Jim Peterson had his parts trailer there, and Lenny took and reorganized everything, took a picture of it, and so this is how you got to have it. You and Lenny have taught me so damn much about the social media stuff. So,
well, thank you for the credit on that. All righty. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back next week with a new guest. And,
what?
Keep on saving. I know. I'll bring you back.
Not me.
No, Buck Parker from Daytona 1 is going to join us next week. And of course,
another
Buck.
Great guy.
Yes. A fantastic guy with great stories to tell. And we'll be talking about fluids and all that we can do with our race cars. It'd probably be a little controversial. He's got a lot going on with some tire treatments, feel how you are about it. But there's, in certain areas of the country, in certain divisions, it's a really good choice. So we'll probably be talking about that a little bit. So it'll be a fun time. But I really appreciate you, Dave. And
thank you.
Definitely look forward to talking to you again soon.
Can't wait to be at the car show. As far as trade show season this year, I'm going to do the car show in Hickory, North Carolina. And I'm going to go over to J.A. Ackey's Outside Groove show in Knoxville, Tennessee. The only two shows, I forgot. Davenport, Iowa. Keith Simmons has got a show the first or second weekend in December. I'll be there with Keith's deal. I forgot about that. And sorry to Keith. I should have mentioned that first, but those are the only ones I'm doing this year. I'm not doing no more. And we're going to do the Racelogic classes. So we're going to do one here, one in Mississippi. And I don't know where the third one's going to be at yet. So, Brian, get working, buddy.
Just tell me where I got to get some flights to, and I'll be there.
Come up to the Quad Cities. You know how to get here.
Yep, and hopefully they won't lose my luggage this time. All right.
Hey, I tipped them so that way you had to stay up here. You couldn't go back home.
No, that was getting there. I needed tripods for my cameras.
Oh, they messed that up. I'm sorry. Hey, and that's something too. I'm reorganizing the whole shop back there, so we're going to have a lot more room. And I'm going to have some other things. I hope to have my surface plate in there too by then. So we're in the process of starting to get a surface plate built for the shop. So
cool deal. All right. Okay. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much for joining us, and like, subscribe, do all the things, and we will see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate.